Welcome, educators. Whether you are a spreadsheet, dashboard, all things data fanatic like myself, or you break out into a cold sweat just hearing the words data meeting, it's okay. I've got you. My name is Jessica Bucceri, and I'm your host for this podcast, Data in Education. I'm also the founder of Data Informed Impact, where I work with schools and educators all over to get rid of some of that overwhelm and make things a little bit easier for them to make the best decisions for their students. We'll be talking about all things data culture, data literacy, and data visualization. Let's get started. Welcome to Data in Education. Today we're featuring Jessica Bucceri, the school testing coordinator from Caroline High School. Jessica has a unique background starting in group homes for adults with intellectual disabilities before transitioning to education, where she's worked in special education and as a middle school assistant principal. In her current role, she built data systems from the ground up. We'll be exploring her experiences in creating a data-informed culture in a school that initially didn't use data and how she uses data visualization to inform decisions. So let's go ahead and hear Jessica's insights. We'll also be talking a little bit about the summit because she has a presentation for that as well. So just a heads up that will be towards the end. But tell me a little bit more detail on your background.
So like I said, I had originally started with group homes. I got my MBA when I was working through that. Then I left. I always make the joke that I didn't want to be called out in the middle of the night and things like that. I kind of got a little bit over that. So I ended up going into education. I undergrad is in psychology. Then I was a special ed teacher for students with emotional disabilities in a public separate school. So about 30 kids. I had a para, and we taught everything 6 through 12. We taught every single subject and content. Anything they needed, we taught it. Then I went to alternative ed for a little while, students who were long-term suspended and things. And then I got the chance to be an assistant principal at a middle school. I did that for about 7 years, looped with my kids. And then I got the opportunity to come be a testing coordinator. So I always say that I got to come here and do what I love, which is organize things and work with spreadsheets and make everybody kind of happy with the organization. But I no longer have to break hearts and make people cry. I don't have to break parents' hearts about what their kids have done.
Yeah.
And those types of things. So I really enjoyed the transition. I still get to be an administrator. I still get to be involved with things, and I'm involved with the teachers. I'm involved with the kids, which I love. We're in our senior season right now where we're moving those seniors through those last tests to graduate. And I just had a kid tell me in the hall, thank you. You're the reason why I'm going to graduate. You're the reason. You helped me. You made sure I got what I needed. And, it's that's kind of where that piece of that education comes in the end for somebody who doesn't work with kids every day. It's watching them go across the stage and say dragging them. But what I do every day, looking at that data and pulling it together, helps us pinpoint how can we help them best and get them to graduate on time and help them move on to that next chapter.
Yeah, I love that. So you're the seniors that are graduating now were in middle school when you were are they the same students that you looped with?
They were sixth graders. They were sixth graders when I was there. The last group I looped with graduated last year. So yeah, so I watched all of them graduate last year and worked on through that.
Oh man. Yeah. That's one thing that I miss a lot. And high school was a hard place to be. I taught high school math and it was a challenge, but one thing that I loved was the fact that we got to watch them graduate, and we had we continued to stay with our advisory group. So I had the same group of girls with me for all 4 years of high school. And then I got to watch them graduate, and that feeling of just I've watched you grown up so much was Oh my goodness, I can't, like, it gives me the chills.
Yeah.
I was so sad that then I started a freshman group and that's when I had to move back to Cincinnati, so I didn't get to watch
Hmm.
them right there. I have watched them from afar. But yeah, it's so impactful, and that's one thing I miss a lot about not working directly with the students because it's so, well, gives me the chills. Um,
Yeah, would I'd say when one of them passes their test and they've worked so hard to do it, and you get to tell them because I give a lot of bad news too,
mhm.
give all of it. But whenever you get to give that good news, it's great for both of you,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, so
Yeah.
fun. It reminds me, I just got an email from my daughter's teacher delivering me some good news about her diagnostics. I'm like, yeah, good news. And it was good news for math too, which she knows how important math is to me. So reading is too, okay? They're
Yeah.
all important. I'm not saying anything bad about readings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so wait, so you said that you when you got put in that position, you're really happy because and then you had a chance to work a bit more with data and spreadsheets and organizing. So what was your experience with data like before that? Were you always a fan? Was it one of those things where like you had a passion for it, but just not the time? What was your experience?
So it would it would start, someone would need something. And I'd be like, okay, how can we do this? How can we see it? Because there was nothing set. There was no set practice. There was nobody doing anything. It was just like, yeah, we have these kids, but don't really know. So I started pulling the numbers and just started almost with, we had this, it was like a school support team is what it was called. And it was like central office would come in and all these people would come in and they wanted to hear about what we were doing. Well, in the beginning, we really didn't have any data. We could tell them about the kids, but we weren't really delving into where were they really at with benchmarks? Where were they really at with the standards? So then, I started dabbling in that a little bit whenever I was at the middle school. I started to dabble. I started to learn from some other people who were around me who could do those types of things. And then when I came over here, I'm the only sole testing coordinator in the county. I'm the only one in the county that this is my only job is testing coordination. Well, there's some slow times. It's not always testing season. And my mind would get bored. So I would start, they'd be like, okay, this is what we need. Well, I think I can build something that shows that. So I would start going into Google Sheets and start building it. And my husband taught me a sum if formula one day. He taught me how to do a sum if. And I was like, oh, what can we do now? And then it just kind of started me going along this path of sum if, count if, what do we do? That, and the other day we had a whole argument about V lookups versus X lookups
Oh
and
my
which
goodness, I
one's
love it.
better. And so for his job, he's a cost analyst. So he does spreadsheets also. And but his world is all V lookups and mine's all X lookups. And sometimes they just don't talk to one another. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I need to find out the max of this. Well, do a V lookup. I don't want to do a V lookup. They're dumb. I like X lookup, sir. Let's fix this. So I started to do that, and I ended up, when anybody needs something, I'm the one they call.
Yep.
Can we do this quickly? And like, as somebody we sit in with a piece of paper, I'm like, "Oh, why are we making tally marks on a paper? No, no, let's do this right now. One example is this afternoon, I got a call from the middle school and they were like, okay, we did our first round of state tests. Like, where are we? Like, what are we doing? I was like, oh, okay, give me half an hour. And so then I sent it back to him. I'm like, here it is. It's raw. It's dirty. It's not clean. I said, but here's an idea of where you're landing right now, where that used to take me days.
Yeah, right.
Now I can flip it together. And like even my testing calendars, they are all based on X lookups and everything in there. I mean, they're color coded, they're all the things. And Somebody told me today that they're simple. That's all I want is simple. If they knew the work that went behind that to make it look simple,
Yeah.
if they ever looked at the hidden sheets, they would just fall over to see what was in there. But that's kind of how I moved it around. I like puzzles. It became a puzzle to me, and
Yep.
I like to keep my mind busy.
Yep.
So I started doing those things, and now I've kind of made it a part of my everyday. I have the sign in my office, relax. I have the perfect spreadsheet for that.
Yep.
We'll fix it that way. But that's so much of it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Same on so much of that.
Yeah.
Because I that's how I got into it too, was that I was given a position that had a little bit of downtime. And as an educator, you're not used to that. Like, it's like, what
No.
is this? Downtime? No, I can't accept it. And so I started playing around too. And very, very similar path and very similar brains, because I love puzzles as well. And I think that's a big part of it too. Like, people talk a lot about the skill set of being able to create the formulas and the dashboards, but I think so much of it is really just being able to like map it out in your brain as far as like how things work systematically. And I don't think I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's a gift. I first of all, I'm a big believer in growth mindset, and I don't think that it's a gift. I think it's really just one, you had to have time. We were both given positions where we had time, and we were like, oh, our brains can think now. Um, and you also have to have one of those positions where you can like step back and see everything. And there are very few positions in education where you can do that, because it's so siloed. And I use silo, and then I immediately think about Casey Watts, who has a clarity framework. Awesome. Another consultant that's just amazing. But it's so true. Like, so many of us are siloed into our own little sections that it's hard to kind of take a step back and be able to see the whole picture. And so it's neat to hear about how once you're in that testing coordinator position, you're able to get that time and start helping not just people with questions about testing, but I mean, yeah, the number of little projects that I've had to hand off from my last district, I'm like, okay, now I need to teach you what to do with this. And they're like, wait, there are hidden sheets? No more hidden sheets. You don't want to see the hidden sheets. But yes, same to so much of that. So we talked about how you kind of started a clean slate at the school that you're currently in the school testing coordinator position. How you worked hard to kind of organize all of that. So what kind of systems have you put in place for that position?
So we have our PLCs. We have those where we go in. I go in once a month to talk about the data and what they're doing with that within their common assessments. Been a little bit more challenging this year with just different personalities and different things like that. And I think that every group is at a different place. Our history group, I say, has grown. We're doing performance-based assessments now instead of state assessments for those students. So they have to be really heavy in the data and understanding what every assessment does to get those kids to passing. This is year number 2 with that. And I've kind of taken that and built them like an overall dashboard, and then working into where would we be if we were grading these assessments right now, if we were grading them today, how many kids we're going to pass? What do we need to do to get these kids to the next level? And breaking that down with those history people has been really different in teaching them what to look for, and as always, you got some people who have grabbed onto that and said, I can push these kids and we can get it. And then we have other people who don't. And we're working through that as a system. Your math people, I love them dearly, but they want to do all their own data. They don't want me in their business. And That's okay to a point, but we have reports we have to put in. There's things we have to do. I find science to be incredibly accepting and very excited, and they use their things. We've been using them to create remediation groups too for our CAB block. So we've had like an advisory. We've been trying this for a couple of years and it hasn't been working. Well, and it's because the reason it wasn't working was teachers put in passes, they got kids. Kids wouldn't go. You would just have all the things. So we spent time, going through who needs to be remediated, who goes through all the common assessments, pulling all the data, getting teacher feedback to who really needs to be there and things like that. And then we put them in a dedicated CAV block in their schedule. This is where you go. This is where you have to be. And I really think that as we're doing our state testing, it's going to be a game changer for us because the kids had to be there. The kids were held accountable to be there. And then we can also, though, say, well, look, so-and-so skipped 5 times. That's why we're not getting what they need. They're not getting what they need, but kind of moving that way. So we've been moving that forward.
And what grade levels are you doing that with?
9 through 12.
9 through 12. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that because there are so many people that are asking, like, how do we make this work in a secondary school? Because, you're working with credits and I love hearing that you guys have a system that you've built to kind of manage being able to help those students get what they need without, I think a lot of times we present MTSS or using data in a way that is very conducive to elementary schools, not so much to middle and high school. So when they see that, they think, oh, we're going to have to throw out the entire schedule and mess everything up in order to get there. And I like to hear that you guys are making those small tweaks and implementing it in a way that doesn't need to be completely rebuilt from the ground up in terms of scheduling. Yeah, I love that. And like I said, I get that question all the time and I have my own examples to give, but we worked mostly with the elementary school in the district that I was in, and we were slowly bringing it up to the middle and high school. So my experience, I've experienced teaching in high school, but not as much experience using data in high school. So I love to hear your experience with that. Can you give like a specific example of a time when you use data to help clarify a gray area in decision making? You had mentioned some of that too.
So sometimes we're using it, our gray area. And some of our kids are gray areas.
We're all gray areas, right?
Yeah, we're all gray areas. But yeah. So some of our kids sometimes are gray areas, and kind of pulling that overall data from everywhere and pulling it all together. One of the things I am talking about at the summit is senior support teams and how we're supporting. We have one for each grade level, but the data that we pull into that immediately gives us a picture of the kid. It looks at at first it kind of started as a failure list, not something you really want to see, but it's what we had to know, but then it looks at, oh my goodness, this kid has 7 Fs. Why does he, we wouldn't even know he had 7 Fs. Like talk to him, functioning fine, not in trouble, that type of stuff. Oh, whoa, why do we have 7 Fs? And then we're able to go back and talk to the kid, talk to the parent, put mentors into place and those types of things just based on, looking at that. And then we can track it. We track it week to week to see how it changes. And if there's not a change, we can go back and put in more interventions. So it's not just about, going, oh, look, he has 7 Fs. Oh, well, don't know what's going to happen. But, it's getting counseling in there. It's getting extra therapeutic supports if we need it. It's going to child study, because a lot of times we'll look and I'll go, hey, guys, this kid has been scoring a 400 as a passing on our state assessments. this kid is scoring in the 330s. They've never been above the 330s. Maybe we need to do an assessment. Maybe we need to do something else. Because unfortunately, sometimes if you're a nice kid who just kind of does what you're supposed to do and you don't rock any
Hmm.
boats, you don't get noticed. And
Yep.
if we're not looking at this data to see, it can be easy to drop a kid like that and not be able to see what's going on and not be able to help them. So that's kind of, where we've been using that and to pinpoint that and just help our kids graduate on time and just be more prepared as they're moving on.
Yeah, I love that. That's funny. We had that same conversation about students who sometimes get left behind because you wouldn't expect for them to not have those good grades and everything. We talked about that same subject in the last interview that I did. So it's so, and I was one of those kids, so it makes sense. Yeah. There's something else that I was going to comment on as well. Now I can't. Oh, I was going to say it's so cool to hear that I am working with a secondary school right now and building out a dashboard, and we have the list of students who have a certain amount of I think they look at D minuses and Fs, and it looks like they're going down the same route that you guys are in being able to, and that's one of the benefits, right, of having that skill set of data visualization, is being able to pull all of that data together so that people can actually see it and make decisions from it. So yeah, again, so interesting to hear how it works in a secondary school. How do you ensure that the data that you collect and use is actually relevant and actionable for the teachers? Um, and we've talked about these support groups, but I'm a little bit curious as well as in the way that you guys talk about the data in your PLCs that you mentioned.
Mhm. Um, and I still think, even though we've been doing this for a while, we're still growing. We're
Always,
still
always.
growing. We're still growing in our PLCs because, unfortunately, a lot of times PLCs change from year to year, not necessarily with people, but with ideas and thoughts on how
Yep.
people want them run and what's important to look at, to look at now. Um, we've really been focusing on our middle group kids. Our accreditation has changed a little bit. And now that the state has changed our accreditation model from where it used to be, you would look at your exceptional ed kids, your GRAC groups, your all that type of stuff. We're not looking at that anymore. It is with our senior class, how many kids passed the reading test? How many kids going to pass advanced? How many kids passed algebra? How many kids passed biology? And everything now rides on your senior class, which is a total shift in what we've been doing for years. It used to be, your one shot, your accreditation sometimes hinged on ninth graders, passing their test. And now, it's the seniors. And while they were passing, I think it's a different mindset. And I don't know what's going to happen with our PLCs moving forward with that mindset of, having kids be successful in moving forward because of how our accreditation model is running now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And definitely um, something that throws a wrench in things. A lot of times it's like I was just working with someone in Indiana whose graduation requirements just changed and
Mhm,
threw a wrench in all of their data tracking. And it's hard to keep up with all of those different state requirements for sure.
mhm.
Um, what are the visualizations that you have found that have been most beneficial for your teachers and just your school staff in general?
I think for my teachers, it's almost the concept they've finally gotten, like, really the red, yellow, and green almost. They love to open it up and see somebody who's gone from yellow to green or,
Mhm.
they want to see those colors. It is the oddest thing, but they love to see, where the kids are, and they like that easy, quick, clean red, yellow, green. Here's where we are. They will be stocking my spreadsheets tomorrow when scores start coming in, because I put them in
Mhm.
immediately, and they're already set to color code to what it is as soon as it goes in. But it's so interesting that that is like the one thing that they're just like, yes, we have to have the colors. We have to have that. But I
Yeah.
think in their mind, it makes it easier and it
Yep.
makes it quicker. It just, we know what red, yellow, green means from everywhere. Green, we're good to go. Yellow, slow down. Red, stop. That's
Yeah.
stop and look. There's a warning flag here. Get this
Right.
together. Um, I think that's one of the biggest things, a lot of the stuff that even I was doing early, I wasn't using color. And
Mhm.
to me, it was okay because I understood what was going on. But adding that color in has changed it. I'm in the process of learning Looker Studio. I'm still chugging along, but got a little busy with other things. That'll probably be my big summer fall project,
Yeah.
moving that in because we want to use our new accreditation model to pull everything together with the thought of, if we pull it into Looker Studio, then we pick the kid and we can see exactly where they would fall within accreditation.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our main end goal, to have one that shows us everybody all together, but also shows us kid by kid,
Yep.
because you max out on points. So we need to see where all that's going. So I think we're becoming more savvy in what we're providing and what we have out there. Um, but we're still simple in that we love our red, green, and yellow colors to tell us what our kids are doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I talk about this often. I'm sure in our conversations that you've probably heard me bring it up as well, that um I had to shift. I would use like one color, I would use a color scheme. I love how it's really weird because like my mom is an artist. That's not weird. But what's gonna come after that? It's weird. My mom is an artist and my dad is more like engineering field.
Mhm.
Um along those lines. So my brain, I don't know if it's because I grew up and it's nature versus nurture, whatever. I love numbers and I love
Mhm.
organization and all that stuff, but I also love all things design, pretty colors, um, so that part is just as fun for me. I love creating graphics. Like, I don't hire anybody for my business to do. I did for my logo and stuff, but beyond that,
Yeah.
like I do everything because that's fun.
Mhm.
So when I started making dashboards, I would make them all different colors uh, and have a theme and stuff. And I too learned that that was not going to work. And I think some of it came also from like not wanting. It's really really hard to label students as red. So to be
Mhm.
able to, you had to be able to present it in a way that says, we are not labeling these students with red. What we're
Mhm.
doing is saying that we need to be able to put in supports for these particular students. Um, but the one thing that helped me with switching my POV from creating all of those colorful dashboards to going back to a more simpler look and connecting the colors was the book Storytelling with Data,
Mhm.
and by Cole. I can never remember her last name, but it is such a good book. It's not educator focused, so
Mhm.
helpful in learning how people read graphs and charts. And the tips that she gives are amazing. And it's so much of what you just said, keeping things super simple, making sure that you're making those connections with color, because all of that just takes away that cognitive load when they first look at that dashboard. It's like, oh, I don't need to take the 0.2 seconds to figure out what each color means. I don't need to
Mhm.
take the 0.5 seconds to figure out where to look. Um, so it's a lot more important than I ever expected it to be. And I think you're spot on with the tips that you gave.
Mhm.
Um, I want to talk a little bit about the summit before that you go. You had mentioned that you talk about these groups for the students, the student support groups. And can you tell us first what the title is, and then if you remember what time of day and day you're presenting on? I do not remember.
It's 1:00. I want to say on the second day. I think.
Okay. Is that
I think
Eastern?
yes, 1:00 Eastern time. Yeah. On the second day. And it's student support teams, but I think we're creating a dashboard for student support teams and really how to pull in your SIS data into a functional use, I used all the count ifs, all the uniques, all the funny little things. One of the other things it does track is number of students who are failing a certain class, or not sometimes a teacher's class too. We look, or if we get complaints, or sometimes if there's 0 apps, we're going,
Yeah, right.
what's going on here?
Right.
It helps us keep a pulse too on what's going on in the building in general.
It helps you know what questions to ask, is the way that I like to frame it. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but building that dashboard to be able to use that. I mean, my next steps with that dashboard myself is I'm trying to build macros into it to automate it a little bit more. Those are expanded next steps, but helping build that, because I think it's really helped me see what's going on overall. And at this point, we have kept that dashboard since 2020, the 2021 school year. So now at this point, we have 4 years worth of data to see where we are grade wise, what's going to happen with our seniors, where do freshmen fall? And, somebody will come to me and they'll go, "Oh, the freshmen have this many Fs." And I'll go, "It's okay. That's how many Fs our senior class freshmen had this year. Look, this year, this is where we are." And kind of watching those ebbs and flows of the school, because that's where it is. Your freshmen have all your Fs. They do. It's where it is. But our freshmen need the most support. They're just finding out that they're humans. They're like greyhound puppies. They don't know what to do with all their limbs.
Are they humans? Do we know that? Some days
they're almost 10th graders now, so we're seeing a little bit more. Yeah, we're a little bit closer. Our seniors are, they're adults, they're gone, but our freshmen are getting a smidge closer. Say our 10th graders are turning into 11th graders, which is much more pleasant. But
a little
bit closer. As long as they're not 7th graders or 4th grade. I call 4th grade the 7th grade of elementary. But as long as they're not 7th graders,
that makes sense. Yeah,
we'll be okay.
As long as they're not 7th graders. Oh my gosh, I'm not looking forward to that year with my daughter. Yeah.
I really thought that, but I think with both of my sons, it was from the time they turned 15 until like getting their driver's license. And then because my oldest fell out of it right before he turned 17. And my youngest is going to be 16 next week. And he's starting to finally fall back out of it again.
Yeah. Education, parenting, all of it.
Yes. All of it together. I just look at my husband. I'm like, no, they're all like this. This is not.
Yeah,
this is
I've
normal.
had to explain the same thing to my ex-husband, my daughter's father. I'm like, because he hasn't had a lot of experience with kids in general. And I'm like, oh no, this is part of being a kid. I know you don't remember it, but this is part of being a kid.
This is it.
It's a wild ride. Okay, so as we start to wrap up, if anybody has any questions about what you are doing or wants a little bit more detail, how can they get a hold of you?
Probably my email address is actually jmkst82 at hotmail.com. I'm still in the Hotmail. It is what it
Oh,
is.
yeah. It's one I haven't heard in a minute. And I have
Yes.
that. I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Yes. And then I also have my school address, but I don't monitor that nearly as frequently outside of the hours of 7 to 3 as I do the other one. I will say, being a testing coordinator, you can have a lot of boundaries, which is a good thing.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. That's it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited about your presentation and the summit. I especially now that you talked a little bit more about it, it just sounds so cool. And I think we're in such, like I say over and over again, we're definitely in need of some more success stories, or growth stories, because everyone gets shy when we say success stories, because we're all educators and we're like, no, we're not a success yet, because we have such high expectations. Which is good because we're working with children. So, but I'm so excited for you to present, and thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. I appreciate you.
Yes, thank you too.
Well, my friend, did you enjoy it? I'm really hoping the answer is yes. And like every other podcast out there, I'm going to ask you for some big favors. Can you please make sure that you're subscribed? You don't want to miss the next episode, I promise. And then if you could leave a review, that'd be awesome too. If you're on YouTube, by the way, there's this great thing that you can do where you just go to the box underneath the video and type in your thoughts, ideas, wishes, hopes, dreams, and hit comment. And it shows up under the video. It is public, just a warning. But I'd really love for you to do that. Share with me. What did you think about the episode? Or what are your dreams in life? It's okay. You can really leave any kind of comment. And I'll do my best to respond. Above all else, I appreciate you listening, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.